So in this video, we will just unbox and have a first look at this smartphone here from Samsung. It's the Galaxy A22, the 5G variant. I believe there's also a 4G variant, with a little bit different specifications to this one here, but in this video, of course, we will have a look at the 5G variant. And let's just have a look around the box here. Of course, you can see on the left side here, Galaxy A22 5G. Quite amazed how low cost or how low price you can actually get a 5G smartphone for nowadays. So I'm kind of curious to test it out and of course see how well it actually works in real life. And this is of course the gray version, 64 gigabytes of storage. And this is the European version as well. So the SMA22 6B/DSN. No information here on the back of the box and nothing really on the left side of the box, or excuse me, the right side of the box. Of course, this is completely new and sealed. So let's just get into this one here. Opening it up. Just cutting the seal here on both sides. And kind of just squeeze out the inner package here. So this is just an outer box, and let's have a look at what we actually get here inside. A little bit of a Samsung brand in there. I'm not really sure if you can see it. It is white on white here, or silver text on a white background. Kind of hard to film, but let's just see what we actually get in this little accessory box. We do get some quick start guide, of course, to get you quickly up and running, but nothing really to it here. Just plug it in and turn it on. And of course, you do also have dual SIM in this one here, 2 nano SIMs, and you also have a micro SD card. But I'm not really sure if you can actually use an SD card and a dual SIM functionality at the same time. Some phones you can, but previously Samsung phone you couldn't. So let's just have a look at that in this video as well. But yeah, many different languages here, and we also get a little bit of a warranty card. You can just check out the warranty in your neighborhood, and a little template here that you should discard, of course, this phone properly, because it does contain a battery. And that's all you get in this little box. So let's just dig a little deeper. Presented here by the smartphone itself. Yeah, quite a big phone. It is built entirely by plastic, of course, glass screen on the front. Let's just put it to the side for now and have a closer look at what we get in the box. Of course, this is a low-end phone, so we get a charger in the box, which is not something you get with the more high-end phones for some odd reason. But a Samsung adaptive fast charger. So what is this? A 25 watt charger? Oh, it is a 15 watt fast charger. It's just adequate. I know it's not really the fastest nowadays. Samsung is a little bit behind there, but I believe a slower charging will also increase the longevity of your battery. So I'm not really a big fan of fast charging. 15 watt I think is fine enough, but anything above that you will kind of just destroy battery a little bit faster. But of course USB-A here in one end, and this is the European version, so of course it has the European plug here. You also get a USB-A to USB Type-C cable, just a standard USB 2.0 cable. So don't really expect any fancy or faster transferring speed with this cable here, but it's fine enough, of course, for charging the phone. And in the bottom of the box here, we do have a little SIM eject tool. And what appears to be some kind of a box there. Nah, not really anything included. Let's just remove the box and of course get the main character in the show here. The phone comes nicely wrapped in plastic. You don't have to peel it off here. You can actually just squeeze the phone out just like so. And first impressions, feels a little plasticky actually. But of course I'm also used to like stainless steel and aluminium phones from my iPhone and my S22 Ultra. But overall feels pretty nice. Solid construction here. Not really any flakes, and yeah, it does have a little bit of a cold touch. So could kind of feel maybe like it's anodized aluminium. But yeah, I think it is just plastic. Yeah, it is plastic. It does have quite a bit of a different feel around the entire phone here. It's kind of rounded towards the middle, but on the sides they are a little more flattish. That's definitely not a feeling I have felt on any more recent phones from Samsung or other manufacturers. They've gone the more flat route, of course, on the iPhone, and a little more rounded side here on the S22 Ultra. It does feel a little bit different, but anyways, let's just have a look around the phone itself. On the right side here, we do have a fingerprint sensor in the power button, or sleep wake power button here, volume rocker just on top of that. So pretty basic or standard Samsung setup here. On the top, we do have a microphone. On the left side, this is of course where the SIM tool is, or where the SIM is located. Nothing else here on the left side. On the bottom side here, we do have a USB Type-C. We have, I believe, only mono speaker in this one here, microphone, and of course also a 3.5mm headphone jack, because this is a budget phone. So you get a charger and a headphone jack. And on the back side here, we do have this triple camera setup and a flash. Kind of like this setup here. Looks almost like it has 4 cameras, of course, but yeah, the last one is just a flash, and I believe this is a ultra wide, wide, and a telephoto camera. And we have a little bit of a Samsung branding down here. Backside feels quite nice actually, but I believe it is plastic, but could kind of look like it is some kind of a, I wouldn't say metal, but maybe glass. You know, some matte texture glass, but I'm pretty sure it is made of plastic. And you do have a little bit of a camera bump there as well, but it's not really all that major. Let's have a look at that SIM tray there and see what kind of setup we have. I haven't really investigated too much here. I'm not really sure if we can do dual SIM and a micro SD card. And yeah, it actually seems like we can do so. So you can both have 2 nano SIMs here at the same time as a micro SD card, which is definitely a big thumbs up. I believe previous low-end A series of Samsung phones, you can either choose between dual SIM or 1 SIM and a micro SD card, but now of course you can do both. So yeah, quite nice. I'll probably throw a micro SD card in here just to bump up the storage a little bit if I end up needing that. And of course on the front here, we do have a front-facing camera. This kind of teardrop cutout. I don't really if you can see that without the screens being on. And of course you also have the earpiece. I believe this is not a loudspeaker as well. I believe it's only earpiece, but it's nicely hidden up here. And a little bit of a size comparison here between the iPhone 13 Pro Max here on the right side and the S22 Ultra here on the left side. Pretty much shares the exact same footprint. You know, it's quite a big phone. Yeah, not as wide as the other 2 models here. You can see it is a little bit narrower, but in terms of its height, it is pretty comparable between the 3 here. So yeah, big, what I would call a phablet phone. But anyways, let's just get into this one here. Wipe it down a little bit. Already got a few fingerprints on there. Let's just try and turn it on and see if there's actually any juice on this battery it came shipped with. And I feel a little bit vibration there. So yeah, definitely does have some kind of a charge on it. And of course we're met with the welcome screen here. I believe it just says hello in different languages. We do have a we do have 57% charge. But anyway, let's just get into this. I will set it up in English to begin with, and I will change it to my native language once I'm done with this video here. English, what should we choose? Let's just choose United States. And we have to agree to some end user license agreement. You can see 2 of them down here is optional. So I'll just select the top one here and click next. I will always just agree to as minimum as I can, or as few as agreement as I can. And then we come to, of course, the Wi-Fi network here. And it does have 5 GHz Wi-Fi. Just took a little bit of a time to actually find my 5 GHz network for some reason. And you can see there, VHS 2 and 3 is 5 GHz networks. Let's just connect to this one here. And of course, I'll type in my password. And we are connected to Wi-Fi. Let's hit next. I do not have any service providers in here. I don't currently have any physical SIM cards I can put into this one here, because I am using eSIMs on my other phones. I am definitely all in on the eSIM generation, and I hope we'll see that become a standard also in lower end phones. Much easier, I think, to deal with. You don't have to remove the cover of your phone, which can be kind of hard to get off. Like these leather covers especially, just to change out SIMs, and eSIMs just so much easier if you're switching between phones frequently like I do. But in this video we will also just get into testing Wi-Fi speeds and see what we can get with this phone here. Okay, I'm now asked if I want to copy apps, photos, contacts, Google accounts and more from another phone. I don't want to do that. I like to set my phones up as a new device every time, and I'll just copy over manually whatever I need. And this way I won't run into hopefully any issues if I've set something up on my other phones that I want to copy over to this one here. I can kind of sometimes screw something up. in my experience. But anyways, let's just log into my Google account. And I am now logged into my Google account. And of course, I am asked if I want to back up to Google, use location, allow scanning. I don't really like that it can scan for Wi-Fi networks. I don't connect to public Wi-Fi ever, unless I am really desperate. I don't want it to send the user diagnostic data. And let's just see what the last one is here. And then I'll hit accept. Move on to next step, probably just asking me to log into Samsung account. Choose your search provider. This is a Google Android phone, and you can still select other search providers. I'll still just stick with Google. It works for me, but of course you can select one of the other ones if you want to do so. Definitely recommend you use fingerprint with this phone here. You can set it up with face recognition, but this is just using the standard camera, not really as secure. Of course, if you don't care, then just set face recognition up, but I'm going to use fingerprint sensor, and it has the built-in fingerprint sensor in the power button. I will select PIN here, just as a second way to log in. If your fingerprint doesn't register properly, you can use the PIN here, or you can also just use a pattern. I just like to use a PIN because that's what I'm used to, and also every time you reboot the phone, and from time to time you have to type in your PIN to enable the fingerprint sensor. And let's just hit OK and get to the fingerprint scanner setup. You can see the little animation here, just prompt you to kind of just touch the fingerprint scanner here on the right side, just where your thumb is. So this is probably the finger you would want the most to be recognized on the scanner here. Change the position of your finger slightly. So of course just scan all of the areas of your thumb so you can get quickly into this phone here. Of course, if you're left-handed, use your left thumb and so on. You can also add more fingerprints. I'm just gonna use my right thumb for now. But of course you can use whatever kind of finger. I believe you can up to 4 fingers at a time. Let's just hit next. And of course we have Google Assistant. I will just agree to that one. I actually find Google Assistant pretty accurate. Allow assistance on lock screen. Yeah, agree. Let's just do that. It's a nice thing to have enabled, I think. And then please wait. And now we get to the Samsung account. So of course, if you have one, you can log in. You can also create your Samsung account just using your Google account, or you can just skip entirely. But of course, if you don't log into a Samsung account, you will kind of lose out of some of the features like cloud save and so on. I tend to just log into a Samsung account, so I will do that now. And once you logged into a Samsung account, you kind of have to agree or not agree to some of these terms here. You can see all of them are optional. So I'll just hit agree here, and we'll just move on here. You can see like my other devices, I already have logged into my Samsung account, and I also have 2-step authentication turned on. So I need to type in a password that I just got on my S22 Ultra. And that's it. We are logged into Google Samsung account and have also agreed to different kind of agreement. And let's just hit done here and get into it. Kind of digging the wallpaper there, looks kind of nice. And I believe it's pretty close to the same experience you get with any Samsung phone nowadays with One UI. Let's just go in and see here what kind of version we are running. If we can just like get into the actual settings. It seems to have been frozen on me here. This is a low-end phone, so you shouldn't really expect it being able to handle multiple things at a time. And you can see there's quite a few things here running in the background. So it is definitely not a smooth experience right now. It is completing different tests here in the background. So let's get into settings here and see how much storage we actually have available right out of the box. Of course, 64GB variant. You can of course throw in a micro SD card if you want to have a lot of content like movies and music and so on there. I believe you cannot really install apps on SD cards anymore. Some apps you can move some of the data to SD cards, but I definitely recommend just keeping all of your apps on the device itself, and then all big files like music and video, throw that on your SD card. But anyways, so we have used 27% of the storage. So how can we actually see how much storage we have available? Yeah, so used 17.9 gigabytes out of 64 gigabytes. Most of it is of course system, like operating system and so on. Let's just see what kind of apps we have pre-installed on this device here. I suspect we have Facebook. We usually always have that on Samsung devices, and let's see if we can uninstall it or we can do that. So that's nice. I will definitely remove Facebook. I don't use social media at all, and specifically not Facebook. I don't really like that. And let's just go through the list here and see what other apps we find. We also have LinkedIn. Don't use LinkedIn, but we can uninstall it. And you also get, I believe, the same apps on the more expensive version. The S22 Ultra also had to go in and or remove those apps. So it's not just because this is a budget device. This is pretty standard on a Samsung phone. That you get a little bit of a bloatware. Also have Netflix on there. I do use Netflix, not really on my phone though, but I do have Netflix, so I'll just keep that for now. And we do have Spotify on there as well. Not an app I use either. Let's just remove that. But of course, if you use Spotify, it is kind of nice. It is pre-installed, and I don't think we'll see any more bloatware really. Of course, you have all the Google apps, and you also still have the Samsung apps installed. And let's go in here and check the software version. So it does come with Android 11 out of the box. That kind of surprised me a little bit. And One UI core version, probably just a lower end version of One UI. I thought actually it will come with Android 12 out of the box. I'm recording this video as of the 25th of April 2022. So I suspect they just had this one in storage for some time before they actually shipped it out. So it didn't come with the latest and greatest. And let's just go in and see if there's actually a software update. I would suspect there is a software update. No, my software is up to date. So apparently Android 11 is the latest and greatest for this phone here. And of course on the big boy here, the S22 Ultra, we are running One UI 4.1 on that one and Android 12. And the Google system update is from November the 1st, 2021. I'm not really sure if it's because I don't have a SIM card in this phone that is not able to update to latest firmware, or maybe Android 12 just haven't come out as of recording this video, like I said, here in late April. Anyways, let's just go into the screen setting or display setting here. I like to keep mine at dark mode, even though this is a TFT panel. This is not an OLED panel, but it is a 90 Hz panel, and I believe it's just locked at 90 Hz, so you don't get any variable refresh rate, and you don't get those nice saturated colors that you do on a more high-end Android phone or Samsung phone. And you can see it is set to high right out of the box at 90 Hz. You can also just run it as standard, but it does have a 5000 mAh battery and not the most beefy CPU, GPU in this one. So I believe the battery life should be pretty good if you're running a 90 Hz. But like I said, I really like the dark mode. I'll just keep that one on. And I will also keep the screen on for 5 minutes. And the navigation bar, I'm just so used to the swipe gestures. So that's always the first thing, or one of the first things that I actually set up here. So you can just swipe for the side to go back. You don't have to press any of the buttons. And of course, just swipe from the bottom to go up. And let's just go in and have a closer look at the maximum brightness. This is of course with adaptive brightness turned on. Notice maybe a little bit brighter green without adaptive brightness. Nah, it's pretty close to the same, at least to my eyes. Let's just keep it at a full adaptive brightness for now. And you can see there's a lot of things installing here in the background. So let me just install the latest and greatest apps and install some benchmarking applications and just get back into it and run some benchmark and compare it a little bit to the more high-end phones. So I have set my phone up and I have installed some benchmarking applications. So let's just get into some benchmarking. Did notice one strange thing though with the A22 5G. I did have it plugged into the charger while I was installing and setting up my phone, but it didn't really charge. It did say that the charger was connected, and it started at 52%, but you can see now it's down at 49%. So it actually lost a little bit of a charge when I was using the phone while charging. I'm not really sure if that's a problem, but maybe you're not able to charge it and use it at the same time. At least that's my first initial impressions here, which is a little bit of a strange thing. It did get a little bit hot, and overall actually a little bit surprised by the performance of this device. Definitely you do notice you are on a lower end device compared to a high end device like the S22 Ultra here. But overall actually felt pretty snappy, and the 90 Hz refresh rate feels pretty nice. Only really downside is that this is a TFT panel. I don't know if you can see that, but the OLED panel here definitely is more saturated and higher contrast. And you definitely do notice that if you are used to an OLED screen like on the iPhone and on the Samsung S22 or S series of devices. But anyways, let's just get into Geekbench first off here and just let it run its thing here. Let's run the CPU benchmark first and see which one of these devices finish first. I have a feeling that the iPhone will be finished first, but let's just let it run here and look at the results. And they all finally finished. Of course, to no surprise, the iPhone was the fastest, but we already know that right out the bat, because that's a pretty beefy APU or CPU they have in there. And second, this S22 Ultra finished. This is the Exynos version, and I do have the latest and greatest firmware installed on this one here as of 25th of April 2022. But you can see here comparatively, we're getting close to the same single core score here on the iPhone 13 Pro Max compared to the multi-core score here on the A22 5G. And then again here on the S22 Ultra compared to the A22 5G, we are looking at around twice the performance or more than twice the performance in single core and also in multi-core score. But again, this is definitely enough to just use as a basic smartphone. The A22 5G is, I think, decent enough. Like I said, it is pretty snappy overall when you are inside the actual phone and using it actively. Of course, can just not compare really to a flagship device, but it shouldn't really be able to. Anyways, let's just run the OpenCL compute benchmark here and run the compute benchmark on the iPhone. And let's just have a look at the result here. And the A22 5G finally finished. And you can see there is quite a big difference between the phones here when you're comparing the compute benchmark. But of course, the two Samsung phones is comparing OpenCL or testing OpenCL versus the Metal score here on the iPhone. So not really comparable between iPhone and Android devices, but between the two Samsung phones, you can see it is much faster here on the S22 Ultra. And of course, iPhone is just completely destroying both of them. It's quite an insane CPU that Apple have been able to put in there. But still, like I said, the A22 5G is fast enough for day-to-day usage and for some casual gaming as well. Let's just try 3D Mark and let's just run a Wildlife Extreme on all of them. And let's just compare the results once we are done here. And to no surprise, really, the low-end phone scored the lowest here. You can see the average frame rate on the iPhone was 18.9. Average frame rate on the S22 Ultra, 12.6. And the average frame was just below 2 frames per second on the A22 5G. Of course, scrolling down here, look at the frame rate, temperature, and so on. So yeah, definitely high-end device, you get more performance compared to a lower-end device, which is really no surprise. Let's just do a little bit of speed test, testing the Wi-Fi capability. Like I said, I don't really have a active 5G SIM card right now, so I can not test the 5G compatibility here of this phone. Maybe I'll do that in a later date, but let's just get into speed test here. And we are on the same Wi-Fi, so 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi 6. I do have a 1 gigabit connection, but of course this is over Wi-Fi, so you'll probably see a little bit of reduction in speed there, of course. Let's try out with the S22 Ultra first. So 803 down, 758 up, which is pretty freaking fast for Wi-Fi. Let's just run the same test here on the A22 5G. So less than half download speed and around half upload speed. So we are in the 350-ish, 40-ish megabits per second. Don't think that the A22 5G have Wi-Fi 6. It's probably just Wi-Fi AC or maybe even Wi-Fi N. But this is, like I said, same network, and we are connected on the 5 GHz band. And my router is maybe around 5 meters away from here. And the iPhone also scoring quite a nice result there. So 625 down, 785 up. Let's just do a second run here and see if we can get different kinds of speed. So second run here, we did see a little bit of a speed improvement here on the S22 Ultra. This is actually very impressive. I don't think I've ever seen a download speed this fast over Wi-Fi 6. This is very close to a gigabit connection, so very impressive there. And this is just Wi-Fi 6, not Wi-Fi 6E. So I suspect it being even better if you connect it to a Wi-Fi 6E, because the S22 Ultra does support Wi-Fi 6E. With the A22 5G, just around the same speed, actually exactly the same up and download speed here. And the iPhone, we also around the same, so around 600 down and close to 800 megabits per second upload. So definitely fast enough for the A22 5G for any kind of streaming, downloading, and so on. But man, that's just impressive for the S22 Ultra there. Let's just remove the iPhone out of the equation and just do a final benchmark just between the two Samsung phones here. I'm kind of curious to see what kind of speed we actually get with the built-in storage of the A22, and of course compare it here to the S22 Ultra, which is the highest end phone right now out from Samsung. And we'll just use a little application here to test the internal memory and the internal speed of that SSD, or excuse me, it's probably just a eMMC or one of the faster flash storage devices. I don't believe they use SSD. Only Apple really uses SSD in their current iPhones. So the results are in, and we are looking at quite a bit lower read and or write speed of the A22 5G, which is of course expected as a low-end device, but it's actually not as bad as I would have thought. This is probably some kind of UFS storage. I'm not really sure what generation. Of course, the S22 Ultra does have the latest and greatest, so you can get almost 900 megabytes per second read, and write speed is above 500 megabytes per second. So this is faster than SATA SSDs usually get. Compare, of course, to the A22 5G, which is not really close to as fast, but definitely fast enough for the applications to install fast and also open fast enough. I don't think you will notice any real difference. Maybe we'll install a little bit slower here on the A22 5G, but in day-to-day usage, the read speed should be more than fast to open applications fast and snappy. And let's just run one more benchmark here. See if it will run now on the S22 Ultra. Didn't run when I initially unboxed and set this phone up. So I am curious to see how well it will actually work right now. So the results are in, and they actually finished pretty much the exact same time. But you can see here the score definitely is different. Of course, you see higher score here on the A22 Ultra, the more high-end device, compared to the A22, but it's definitely no slouch there. And it is above 50% at least of the speed comparing to this test here. And you can see the graph here in each different score. And yeah, of course, the A22 Ultra scores a little bit higher than all of the different testing. But I believe the S22 Ultra definitely could do better once we get some more optimized or some more updates. Definitely have improved quite a bit with the latest updates, battery life and so on. But I think that Samsung can still improve the at least Exynos version here of the S22 Ultra. That's benchmark out of the way. Let's just have a look at some of the phone's features here. Camera first, and we do have a, isn't it triple camera setup? It is only a dual camera setup. Of course, one of them is for depth sensing probably. Yeah, I haven't really read specifications all that well. I only paid like $25 for this phone here because I need to change phone supplier or subscription supplier for my carrier. And they had a nice, great deal on this phone here, so I couldn't really resist getting one of these included. But you do have the 1x optical or 1x zoom here, or normal wide, and you do also have the ultra wide. So let's take a shot here of the wide and same shot here on the ultra wide. And you can see the ultra wide there is just completely washed out with the text here. Of course, this is also a white background or white object with some, yeah, pretty faint text on there. So all my studio light here definitely doesn't help. But if you look at the like 1x camera here, the regular camera, you really can see this on the screen as well, because yeah, there's a lot of light shining down towards the screen there. But here you can actually read all of the text on the charger. Not something you can actually do on the ultra wide. So yeah, the ultra wide did seem a little soft and yeah, overexposed versus the non ultra wide, the standard wide here. Looks a little better. Oversaturated color, definitely. The colors are maybe a little bit more accurate actually on the ultra wide, but definitely not the greatest camera. And front facing camera, let's just do a quick snap here. Have a look at that. Definitely also very soft. You can see a little bit softer there around my eyes and my hair, and yeah, overall not a fantastic camera, but definitely should be fine enough. You can also zoom out a little bit there to get some more people, not really that much really, but just a little bit to get more people in the frame. And in terms of the camera app, it is pretty comparable to the S22 Ultra in terms of the overall layout of the camera, but definitely you lose out on a lot of functions. I don't believe you can even record 4K video on this one. No, it's up to 2K video at 30 FPS. And also a lot of the extra functions here of the camera is lagging a little bit. If you compare the more section here of the S22 Ultra compared to the A22 5G, you can see a lot more features here on the S22 Ultra. But like I said, the UI itself looks pretty comparable, but yeah, you will just lose out a little bit in terms of features. Do still have portrait mode, which I never really use on any of my phones. Photo mode, of course, video mode, and you have the more settings there. Just get into the actual settings. We have scene optimizer on by default, document scanning, and we can, of course, we have video stabilization turned on. I believe this is digital stabilization. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe a phone of this class here do have optical stabilization. And I like to have the grid line turned on, geotagging, watermarks, and so on. Let's just try and disable video stabilization and see if we can get a little more in the frame, because it does seem to cut in quite a bit compared to like photo. Nah, actually doesn't seem to cut in the frame. Let's see if we enable stabilization here. Yeah, it does cut in a little bit, so it's definitely digital stabilization you use on your video. So you have to set the focal length before you record a video. You cannot switch between lenses once you start recording. Let's see if we can actually do that in full HD. Not in full HD either, and not in HD, no. So you have to set your focal length before you start recording video, which is not really a big deal. If you want to record a little more ultra wide there, of course, use the ultra wide. else just use the 1x, which actually seems to be pretty decent little camera. The actual scroll speed actually feels pretty fluid because of that 90 Hz refresh rate. Definitely do notice it being a little bit smoother than a 60 Hz screen. Something I notice when I'm on my iPhone 13 mini with the 60 Hz monitor. Does seem not laggy, but does seem a little bit sluggish at times. So it's amazing what that refresh rate can really do to you in terms of how the phone actually feels, how snappy the phone feels. So let's do a little bit of an audio test. There is only one speaker, and that's down below here, not any dual speaker of stereo speakers, and this is of course 100%. Let's just have a little listen here to one of my recent videos, just to hear how it actually sounds with a voice, speaking voice. Let's go to 100% here.
Today, or I received it today as of recording this video here, and today it is the 21st of April, 2022, of course. So this is what you get. Nice brown box, and in this video we will of course unbox it, set it up, and have a first impression of this device here. Nothing really special around the box here.
So the speaker quality of the A22 5G is not really the greatest out there. This is a mono single fine speaker down there, and not the loudest, and a little bit tinny in its sound, but I think it is adequate for what this phone is. It is a very low-end budget phone, so it's enough to just look at or watch a video. I wouldn't really recommend this for any kind of music listening, but you could kind of maybe have a podcast or something running in the background. And of course, like I said, watching that occasional YouTube video and Netflix show. But of course, you also have that headphone jack, so you can pretty easily get much better audio quality. And of course, use Bluetooth headphones for that matter. And of course, for display here, we do have the 90 Hz refresh rate. This is a full HD screen. And it is of course, wider aspect ratio. And let's just have a look at the colors and overall this screen here. I think it's not really that bright. You can probably tell, especially compared to like a high-end phone. This is at 100% brightness. It doesn't seem to actually affect brightness if I enable or disable automatic brightness, at least when I have a lot of light shining down towards the phone. So this is 100% brightness, not the brightest phone, but I think in terms of color, it actually is sufficient enough. It is a TFT panel, full HD like said, and the blacks look, to my eyes at least, with all this light shining down towards the phone, it's kind of hard to see the screen quality. But yeah, colors I think look pretty nice. And gamma as well, I think acceptable. Again, a smartphone like this. Viewing angle, let's just turn it up to around 100% here. Viewing angle is not the greatest really. You can see a lot of shifting there, but you can kind of almost read the text. Looking at the display from the sides, you can see there you do have a lot of light shining down towards the screen, or the backlight from the screen there. Kind of makes it harder to read, but yeah, again, a low-end phone. I don't think really you can complain. Of course, having a look at some real-world photo here, I think actually pretty well saturated screen. Not OLED spec, of course, but I feel like if you're not really comparing between other phones, other like OLED devices, I would be probably pretty happy with a screen of this quality there. The red definitely does pop a little bit, and the green also pops, and yeah, you can pretty easily distinguish between the colors. So yeah, screen, I think it is passable. And that's pretty much what I can say about this phone here. Definitely a passable phone. Not a phone I think personally I could use as a daily driver, but as a secondary phone, backup phone, a phone for like having a SIM card for when you're traveling, or a phone for your kid, or if you just want a lower-end phone that you don't really have to be too careful with. Of course, this is a great device, especially if you can get it at a good deal. Like I said, I paid around $27 US for this because I was moving my subscription to the carrier here, and they, like I said, have a pretty insane deal on this one here. So I not really end up paying that much for it, and for that kind of money, I think it's kind of a steal. I wouldn't pay full retail for a phone like this. Definitely do get it on some kind of a subscription and get it heavily discounted. But first impressions, I think actually it is a pretty nice little phone. I can't really fault it for anything when you actually consider its price point. And I'm kind of curious to test out the battery life with this 5000 milliamp hour battery and the lower end SoC inside. Although I believe the TFT screen maybe can use a little more power than an AMOLED screen or an OLED screen. But of course, time will tell. And in terms of design, of course, you are having quite a bit of a chin down here. And you have that teardrop up here with the camera. Not really a big fan of that. One thing I haven't really touched upon yet is the fingerprint sensor. Actually quite fast. And you do not have to press it in to actually get into the phone. Just hold your finger on the button there. And you get in. Of course, you have to press it in to actually lock your phone. And double tapping also works if you want to, of course, turn off the screen. But all you need to do is really just hold your finger on there, and you can see it is actually pretty fast. Just make sure you are pressing it correctly. If you're pressing it off a little bit to the side there, of course it will not unlock. You get a little vibration that it couldn't register your finger. But if you press it in the center and maybe hold your finger just a little bit, not tightly but firmly against the button, you can see it pretty much unlocks. Not every time, but close to every time. Just give it maybe a second or so from when you're locking it until you unlock it again. Yeah, you can see now it is pretty responsive. Just give it a second or two before you actually unlock it if you lock it. And you should get pretty good results. But that's pretty much it for this video. Definitely recommend it. And if I can find some links for this one, I will share them down in the description. Those links are of course affiliated, so you will support the channel if you go and choose those. But else, pretty much it for this video. I hope to see you again in a future one. Until then, take care.